Hi, everyone. I'm Judy Unger. I'm one of the librarians at Brookdale Community College, and I am hosting, along with Monmouth County Public Library, this book talk on the book Stronger Than the Storm by Debbie Mura. And this book talk is part of a grant that Brookdale Community College was awarded from the American Library Association on resiliency and climate change. So when I first got the grant, I immediately thought of Debbie Mura and her book and its appeal not only to Brookdale, but also to the wider Monmouth County community. I've learned a lot about Ocean County in this book, and I'm Superstorm Sandy, and I'm very excited to have Debbie talk. So the first thing I'm going to do is introduce her. Debbie Mura has been a working journalist for more than 40 years. She is a professor in Brookdale's Communication Media Department, where she teaches journalism, public relations, and communication courses. Regardless of the course, Debbie's focus is always on guiding students to become better global citizens. A Toms River resident, Debbie and her family and thousands of others lived through the devastation of Superstorm Sandy. This is her first novel. And welcome, Debbie. Thank you so much for being here. And you're going to start off with reading some excerpts. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'll just give a little introduction to why I wrote the book, and then I'll read.
Okay, great.
Awesome. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, everyone, for coming, especially when it's 72 degrees outside for the first time this year. So thank you. I appreciate that. I just want to give you a quick idea about why I wrote the book. When Sandy hit, my daughter was 15, my son was 17. I taught, as I still do, at Brookdale, and I worked with the youth of my church every year on our spring musical. I was literally surrounded by young people going through the aftermath of the storm, and I was hearing their stories. And while everything I just said is true, it's not the full story. I personally struggled after Sandy. Being out of our house, which was flooded, needed to be gutted, rebuilt, lifted, was very difficult. I sought the help of a therapist and a psychiatrist. I was diagnosed with depression and PTSD. My therapist suggested that since I'm a writer, I should write. Keep a journal, something low key, something low stress. I turned that suggestion, and those of you who know me can understand this, I turned that low stress, low key thing into, I should write a novel. And the stories I was hearing from our young people made me believe it was their stories that I needed to tell. When a Sandy victim or any natural disaster survivor meets someone who didn't experience the same thing, they are asked for their Sandy story. These people want the drama of the cold, dark night. But anyone who went through Sandy knows that is not the Sandy story. That's just a blink of an eye, which is why in the novel, the actual storm is just a short prologue. I'm going to read to you from the back cover and then three short, very short clips from within the book. And then if you like, I'll take questions. From the back cover. Lacey's mom always says, life is messy. Now she knows what it means. Type the words, life is into a Google search. And the first thing that pops up is beach. That implies living at the beach is an idyllic dream come true. Having lived at the beach, or what New Jerseyans call down the shore, all their lives, 15-year-old Lacey Frechette and her friends didn't understand the sentiment. They felt their teenage problem-filled lives were more like the roller coaster they rode regularly in nearby Seaside Heights, with its many ups and downs, twists and turns. But everything changed when Hurricane Sandy tossed that roller coaster into the Atlantic Ocean like a child's discarded toy. This is their story. The first excerpt from the book that I'm going to read is, in case you have the book and you're following along, it's on page 15. This is Lacey's friend MacGyver, and he's thinking back and reminiscing on the Halloween that never came. The costumes were never finished. The party was never held. Sandy's arrival canceled everything. The October 30th trick-or-treating in Toms River, the famous Toms River Parade on Halloween night, and trick-or-treating on October 31st everywhere else in the state. even though the governor had declared Halloween would merely be delayed a few days until November 5th. No one in Toms River and throughout much of New Jersey felt like celebrating when the nightmare they were living was far more frightening than any spooky pretend. As the blackout continued on that fake November Halloween, lucky New Jersey residents coped with the horrors of no electricity, hot water, or cell service, while those most terrorized by Frankenstorm Sandy adopted farmer's hours, using every moment of available sunlight to rummage through their soaked stuff and throw most of it out. As MacGyver thought back on the holiday that wasn't, he remembered that in the days immediately following Sandy, neighbors would begin to fall into conversation, commiserating with one another. I'm sorry, I just let someone in. Commiserating with one another, only to cut the discussion short and return to work after uttering the suddenly popular catchphrase, burning daylight. As crazy as it sounded, some small part of MacGyver genuinely believed that time somehow split when the lights went out. The real world, the normal one, where Halloween comes every year and houses are permanent structures that aren't washed away by a simple rainstorm, continued somewhere else. Only MacGyver and everyone he knew had been doomed to take the other road, the one that swerved into a bizarre Oz where grocery shopping takes place in a food pantry and Thanksgiving dinner is consumed among strangers at a church you've never attended. This next excerpt is just a little bit further in the book. This is on page 39 if you're following along. If you're the victim of a storm or any sort of disaster, you're always waiting for that first normal day because this disaster just consumes every day, all day. There's never a time when it's not brought up. So the storm takes place in October, and on President's Weekend, which is February, Lacey and her girlfriend Brittany have been shopping in the mall for the first time. They've gone the whole day with no Sandy references, and then they stop for dinner, and this is what happens. They're at a restaurant. Lacey read the waitress's name tag. Brielle, that's unusual. It's kind of like mine. I'm Lacey. I was named after the town. My parents lived in Barnegat and got caught in a snowstorm on the way to the hospital. I was delivered in the back seat of my dad's '88 Camaro at the Lacey rest area on the Parkway. Funny thing is, you would think they were unprepared because I was a preemie or something, but I was actually 2 weeks late. Anyway, I was supposed to be named Autumn, but they decided Lacey made more sense. I love the story of people's names. My best friend, Brittany pretended to cough. One of my other best friends is named MacGyver after some TV character in the 1980s that his mother loved. The character apparently was amazing and could do stuff like stop bombs from exploding using a Snickers bar. The actor who played him has the same name as MacGyver's dad, which, true story, is the only reason his mom agreed to meet him in the first place. Anyway, MacGyver's nothing like that. Yeah, he has trouble unwrapping a Snickers bar. Lacey frowned, but turned her attention to the server. True story. So what about you? Are you named after Brielle? No, I don't know anyone named Brielle, the waitress said. No, I mean the town Brielle. Were you named after the town? You know, like I was. There's a town named Brielle? Yeah, it's about 15 miles north of here, Brittany said. I didn't know that. I grew up in Rhode Island. My mom just picked a name out of a book. She had no ideas and thought everyone should have a middle name. Oh, Lacey said, clearly disappointed. Wait a minute, middle name? Why do you use your middle name? What's your first name? God, Lacey, you're so nosy. She doesn't mind, do you, Brielle? Or whatever your name is. Lacey flashed a wide smile that revealed her dimples. No, it's okay. Actually, it's probably the kind of thing you would like. I usually use my first name, but people would get so angry and nasty with me that I just decided to put something else on my name tag. What? Why would people get mad because of your name? Is it F.U. or something? It's Sandy. Ugh. Oh, Lacey said, pushing the tip of her left thumbnail into the flesh of her left ring finger, a new habit she started doing absent-mindedly whenever anyone mentioned Hurricane Sandy. For the first few months after the storm, I just kind of took it, you know? People would come in and blame me for destroying their houses or for being out of work. And I would just say, I'm sorry, and we'd laugh it off. But after a few months, I found I was coming home depressed and kind of miserable. Then my brother suggested I change my name on my name tag, and you'd be amazed what a difference it makes. Only problem is, sometimes I forget to answer when someone is yelling Brielle across the room. Lacey frowned but said nothing, all the while pushing her nail in harder until she broke the skin and a little blood dripped out. But Brittany had a more appropriate response. Serves them right. No one should be yelling across a restaurant. You have a point. I'll get your drinks. I'll be right back. And this is the last excerpt I'm going to read you. It's from later in the novel, about halfway through. It's on page 252 if you're reading along. It is Lacey speaking in a support group. She's now starting to process everything that's been happening, and she's talking about a trip her grandmother took her and her brother on back in March, but this is in the summer when she's talking. We were getting off the Pirates of Caribbean, and my little brother Jake was laughing and pretending he had a sword and saying stupid stuff like, "I," and all of a sudden, he just shut down. His expression changed. He looked like he was going to cry. My grandmother, she was busy trying to navigate the escalator that leads off that ride, so she didn't notice. But I was confused until I started to hear the conversation of the people behind us. This old couple who didn't have kids with them or anything, they're talking about how tired they are hearing about Sandy and how it's so ridiculous because it was nothing like Katrina. The woman even said, it's not like a lot of people even died or anything. So we get upstairs and into the gift shop. All the good rides dump into a gift shop. I handed my grandmother $20 my mother had given us for souvenirs, and I asked her to get Jake a sword while I went to find a bathroom. But I didn't go to find a bathroom. I followed these people until they were out of my grandmother's sight. Then I laid into them. First of all, a lot of people did die. They not only died when the storm hit, they've been dying from staph infections from the water. They died from strokes from the stress. They died of heart attacks when they got frustrated and tried to do the rebuilding themselves. They died from the weekly fires that the Jersey Shore has seen ever since Sandy corrupted all our wiring. And they committed suicide from depression. So I just wanted to say, I'm really sorry Sandy didn't live up to your sadistic fantasies of what a killer storm looks like. But you should know, a lot of people died. Oh, and by the way, my 6-year-old brother overheard your conversation. So thanks so much for ruining a trip that was supposed to give him just a couple of days of normal. We really appreciate that. What did the people say? Asked Neza. The lady was like, well, I never. But her husband was chill. He was all apologies. The thing is, I don't normally do things like that. I mean, I never do things like that. I try not to even fight with my friends. But when I saw that look on my brother's face, something inside of me broke, you know? And that's it. Thank you, guys.
That was really great, Debbie. And thank you for reading those excerpts. You already answered my first question. Why did you write the book? And why teenagers? I wanted you to, the question I did want to share, and then I'll open it up, is did that situation with the waitress named Sandy actually happen?
Yes, that actually was something my husband and I were at a restaurant and we met a waitress named Sandy who was having a miserable time and was talking about changing her name on her name tag. And, you know, we were talking and just chatting with her, and she was saying how horrible it was the way people were treating her.
That's unbelievable. Really is. Does that, I'm going to open it up on the or about. So go ahead and ask away. Unmute yourself.
Debbie. I was curious about, I read the novel several years ago now it's been, and the ending, that final image really stuck in my mind. And, you know, as a writer myself, I'm just wondering, did you have that image in your mind? Did you, how was your process? Did you write it like sequentially, or what was your revision? If you could just talk a little bit about your writing process, that would be
Sure.
really cool.
So first of all, I started writing the book in April or May of 2013. So some of the things that even happen in the book, such as, you know, the Seaside Fire, which is in September of 2013, hadn't happened yet when I started writing. I didn't really
Wow.
know where I was going with all of that. But when I got to the 1 year mark of the storm, I knew that that's where I wanted to stop. And I wanted to stop because at that point, for the people I was thinking about, we're starting to get to where they could accept their new normal. I mean, and now we're in pandemic, so we all get what new normal means. But they were starting to realize, okay, we can deal with this, we can move on. And that's why I wanted to stop at that point. And for us at that point, my own family, our house, I don't think it had been lifted yet, but it was going to be lifted. So I love the idea of them sitting on their stoop, which was not lifted, but underneath their house, which was above them. And I just love that picture.
That's great. Thank you.
And then, you know, talking about the process, when I wrote the first draft of the book, and then I asked young people to read it, just a few young people, just to get a feel for whether they thought I was capturing the age group right and those kinds of things, and what they liked and didn't like. And one of my favorite characters didn't even exist in the first draft of the book. Neza the Counselor, she didn't exist in that first draft. And things about the dog were different, but the young people love the dog, so I had to get more of the dog in. And then after that first
question,
then
did you formally interview the kids that you were, you know, getting memories from, or was it just, you know, you were talking to them in regular interactions that you have?
So it's more about regular. I never interviewed anyone for the book.
Okay.
But you know, it was based on my kids, their friends, the students I had at Brookdale. A lot of it was spying on them, not in the real sense of spying, but I was driving. I was the mom who was around and could drive a lot. So a lot of this is based on conversations when kids aren't realizing adults are listening to them.
Oh, okay. I can't wait to read the book. Can I get it on Amazon?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we won't do any spoiler alerts.
Okay.
We'll try not to do any spoiler alerts about the book, but
Okay.
anybody else have any questions?
I have a question, Deborah. You mentioned at the beginning that you were advised from a psychologist that to write a book. Did writing the book achieve the catharsis that you needed and made you feel better in the end?
Yes, definitely. But I want to be really clear. My therapist, and yeah, I had never been to a therapist before. So this was a real struggle for me to even get to the point where it was a friend of mine who said, you really need to try. Just go and see if it helps. But my therapist wanted me to do something. I was working at Brookdale. I was directing a play. I had all kinds of things going on. And my therapist wanted me to do something that was not stressful. You know, writing a journal. She was not on board for this novel writing thing. But it did achieve it because I did get to a lot of it out. And one thing as a parent, you always want to fix what your kids go through. And this was something I couldn't fix.
So do you think that reading your book for people that went through it, like me, would bring back bad memories, or would it help, you know, erase some of the bad memories? What do you think a reaction from someone like me that had his house destroyed would be reading the book?
Yeah, first, I'm sorry to hear about your house. I know what you went through because we did too. What I've heard from other people is that it made them remember things that they'd forgotten in a good way. I don't know what it would have, I don't want to say it'll have that effect on you, but that is what I have heard from neighbors and people. It's interesting because I talk about my neighbors and the people from Silverton that read the book, but I've also heard from people from up and down New Jersey, that I don't know as well. And there's a perspective that we have, having lived through it, that's different from what people.
Okay.
I have another question.
Sure.
Have you had the opportunity to talk to those same kids, now that it's so much later, to see how they're doing and, what happened? Obviously your own kids, but, the other kids, are they around? Can you talk to them or no?
Okay, so they're compilations. Nobody in the book is actually, they're all compilations, but yes, both of my children obviously grew up and I know their friends. And it's amazing what I like for young people, particularly, if any young person's reading the book outside of our area, it has nothing to do with the storm. I think it's amazing to see the resilience of people. And I think
Wow.
young people particularly didn't understand how resilient they could be.
Well, that's good that they were resilient. I mean, they were dealing with, HELL, and they got through it.
Yeah,
And then they have
and,
the pandemic,
Yeah, I think about the pandemic a lot when I think about the book, because, one of the things that I realized when I was working on this was we, as parents, what I saw of other parents is we worried a great deal about our young children because, of course, they need that care. But children that were in this age group that I was writing about, they were really left on their own because their parents were so swamped. There's one passage in the book where the kids are getting away with telling their parents that, all at somebody else's house, which they'd never get away with because their parents always saw each other in the street, but now they're all thrown to the wind.
Wow. It's so interesting. I can't wait to read it.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask, you're so good at dealing with the kids, as I've seen in 10. Did you use the book in class at all? Did you get feedback in class?
No, I don't. I never talk about my book in class. In fact, 10 students last night got a message from someone else that this talk was going on. And I got a message from someone there saying, wait a minute, you wrote a book? You never told us you wrote a book.
I really enjoyed the description of Tom's River. As somebody who is not from New Jersey, I've never been to Tom's River. So I was very interested in the descriptions, and I thought you did that so well, of talking about a place that you love, that you actually described it so beautifully. What is going on with Tom's River now in terms of, are there still places in Tom's River where people have not gotten their homes repaired?
For the most part, most of us have moved on at this point, but there are still homes that you can see have never been touched. And
Wow.
as one family friend we know, as of last, I think November, were still out of their house. They eventually just sold their house and they moved somewhere else. But as of last November, they were still fighting to try and get into their house.
Wow.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I don't want to take up people's time, but I
No, go ahead.
like to chat. Can you talk a little bit about the problems that people had, with the contractors taking their money and all? I live in Red Bank, and up north here, there were a lot of problems. Did it happen down there?
It's funny, yes. The easy answer is yes. The funny thing is, my husband and I were really lucky. FEMA came in like 2 days after the storm. We were one of the first people to see FEMA. And the FEMA adjuster told us that the carpetbaggers are coming. And we didn't really
Wow.
understand what he meant. And then they showed up, and they showed up with the white panel trucks that had no names on them. They showed up with the street signs that looked like elections on steroids, just all different signs for all different contractors. And I mean, my husband and I were a victim of a company that took on more than it could handle, then went out of business. And we were in the middle of all that. It was just a whole lot of that. And everybody, the thing about a Sandy story, which is really interesting, is you can take 25 people who lost their house in Sandy, and they all have a completely different story. One
Wow.
worse than the other, but all different.
Wow. Is your neighborhood back together? You know, like you have sort of the same people in it, and, you know, the number
There
of
are a
homes.
few people that are the same, maybe 50% or so is the same. And then a whole
Wow.
lot of new people. And of course, our property value has gone up, way up, because all the houses that got torn down, they built big mansions on. So, you know, our property value
Yeah.
has gone up.
Actually, that's true here. They're huge mansions all over the shore now.
Yeah, I mean,
And
and some of
I
these were
wonder-
bungalows before.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. I'll have to go to Tom's River sometime, see what it looks like now. Is
Yeah,
there the ride? Is that still up? Did they replace that Ferris wheel or whatever it was? Oh, that's further
roller
down.
coaster, the Jetstar that went into the
Yeah.
water, they've put a new roller coaster that goes upside down now. It's a little shorter in length. I'm a roller coaster person, so I can tell
Yeah.
you the difference in the two roller coasters. But yeah, but there were two piers. There was Casino Pier in Seaside Heights and Funtown Pier. Funtown Pier is and you'll see it later in the book. It's not a spoiler because it happened in reality. Funtown Pier, after we finally get through the summer of the first summer after Sandy, Funtown Pier goes up in flames on September 12th of 2013.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's gone.
and listen,
All right.
Was that a wiring issue? Did they
Yes.
ever? Okay.
That
The
was
salt
an
water,
awful
yeah.
fire because the fire was under the boardwalk, on top of the boardwalk, in the air. So
Oh my
it just
goodness.
moved so quickly.
Wow.
That's incredible. Really incredible. With the book, you know, you do address issues of mental illness in the book and dealing with young adults and mental illness. And I thought that this was this just ties in with the stigma-free zone now thing that Brookdale is going to be a part of. And I'm going to mention that to Sarah Burrell because I think that this would be a really great book, you know, to talk about those issues, and that it's okay to talk about things, you know, and to get out your anger and grief, actually, you know, because of this Superstorm Sandy that came through. So I think it's a good book for that as well.
I think it's important too that Brookdale and other communities are becoming stigma-free communities. I know for myself, I don't like to talk about my mental health. I've gotten much better about bringing that up to my students and talking openly about my own past problems, because so many of our students are going through things. And I think if anybody watched the Meghan Markle interview over last weekend, the
Yeah.
one thing that they showed one picture of her where she and her husband are out and they're, you know, looking very happy. And she says how miserable she was in that moment. And it makes me think of after Sandy. I never missed a class after Sandy, not based on Sandy. And everybody I ran into always said, you have such a positive attitude. They had no idea what I was going through. And I did my best. I mean, that was what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Wow.
think it's so important to always recognize we don't know what's going on with people.
And I think in the character of Lacey, you really describe that so well, you know, of how she's trying to muddle through, but then her inner thoughts, you know, what she's thinking are completely different than the outward, you know,
Yeah.
persona that she's trying to keep up. So I thought that was really good. And I also love the title of The Boy's Name MacGyver because I remembered that show so well.
Yeah, so do I.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That was a great
When I
title.
when I heard that name, I thought it couldn't be from MacGyver the show, and it was.
That was really, really good. Well, I really appreciate you talking about your book. Does anybody have any other questions about the book?
Well, I haven't read it, but you, the word class reminded me of teaching, and I was a teacher. How long was the education system disrupted in Tom's River?
Ooh, I think they were out of school for, I think, 3 weeks, 2 weeks.
Oh, that's not bad
But it
compared
was,
to the pandemic.
yeah, exactly. I'm very grateful we didn't have Zoom.
Yeah, yeah, yes.
Huh.
See,
Go ahead.
Tom's River just, it's a city, which is really far from the ocean. But the township of Tom's River also takes in some of the coastal towns like
Portly
Lavalette,
Beach.
Portly and further up.
Lavalette.
No, not Lavalette. Lavalette is its own independent town, but further up, the ocean town, Ocean Beach, Ocean 1, Ocean 2, Ocean 3, and then up to, and then it begins with Dover. So the town, the seashore towns, seashore communities with their little schools, they were completely out for months. But Tom's River itself, the high school,
Right.
elementary schools in Tom's River, they were fine. They were like, after a couple of weeks, they were running.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I can't be sure, but my memory is that up here in like Seabright, Monmouth Beach, the kids went to school in other buildings because their buildings were condemned because they had mold in them.
Mhm.
So I have to find out. I
But-
just started thinking about that.
Bob, you had a question? Your hand is up.
Yeah, I just want to know about the origins of the dog's name.
Yes. Thank you. I was going to bring that up.
Are you okay?
Okay, so the dog's name is Pyrite. And Pyrite refers to fool's gold. And it's a golden retriever. It's convoluted in that for me, the dog, the dog represents good things and God for some people in the novel. You know, there's a place late in the book where Lacey's talking about how the dog seems to always show up when they need it. And when the dog shows up for people that she doesn't like, she's pretty upset because the dog shows up. And the reason it's fool's gold is it's a fool's God, the dog.
Wow.
Yeah, I love that dog. I love that dog. I want to diverge just a little bit and talk about the projects that are going on with Debbie and Tom at Brookdale Community College. And I'm a relative newbie to Brookdale. I've only been here 5 years. Everybody else has been here like 40 years, but I've only been here 5. But one of the things I love about Brookdale is its student involvement and student engagement in so many cool projects. And I wanted Debbie to talk about TIN and what that is and what they're planning for TIN. So I'm going to share my screen and make sure that I actually have the right page. So let me get to TIN. I'll be right back. There we go. So TIN stands for the Innovation Network. And I would like Debbie and Tom, I don't know why I keep saying Tom, to talk about this project and what they're planning. So go ahead, Debbie and Tom.
Okay, so TIN is project-based learning, and we use it in our classrooms, and we have a student club that's based on project-based learning, where they come up with real-world problems that they would like to work on. Currently, our students are working on building a butterfly garden on campus. And the reason they're building it is both because, and it really ties in well with climate change here, because our monarch butterfly population has decreased drastically. for every butterfly that existed today, there were 2,500 30 years ago. And the population even decreased 26% between January of 2020 and January 21. So we have a real problem. Monarch butterflies are fascinating. Over 4 generations, they migrate between Canada and Mexico. And so they're going places that they've never been before, but they all wind up in the same forest in Mexico. And in order for that to continue, we need to start planting gardens for them and milkweed for them, because otherwise they will go extinct. Our prairies in the central part of the country are gone. They've been over farmed so that the free plants that these butterflies need are no longer there. And so our students wanted to address that, but they also wanted to address, and this is really important, a psychology professor came to talk about mental illness and how many anxiety problems our students are having. And so they wanted to create a meditation place on campus. So that's part of why they also are building this garden. So we're looking possibly next week during spring break, but certainly within the next couple of weeks, to build a butterfly garden on campus and a meditation center. And they'll also be doing things like yoga and all types of meditation, things for students to clear their minds.
And I'm sure faculty and staff would love to clear their minds too.
Exactly. And it's going to be open to the community as well. They also are going to put codes throughout the garden so that you can learn about the butterflies, learn about the plants.
That's cool. Do you want to talk about the fundraiser that you're doing?
There's a fundraiser currently. You can donate to adopt a plant or adopt a chime so that it will be sensory. And you can call the school, call Erin Tierney at the college on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week, or any Tuesday and Thursday, and make a donation. I know one of our students, Jeanette, is on the call. If Jeanette, am I missing anything?
I'm taking you off mute. No, you've got it.
The purple.
I couldn't, go ahead.
I was going to say the purple flyer has the phone number and the person to contact if you can find it. Otherwise, just call Brookdale and ask for student affairs, and they will get you there, and you can ask for the person to donate to. The garden is also an educational garden in 2 senses. I guess the first is up front with the codes that Debbie was referring to, that visitors can scan to get into an information database that we're going to have. The information database we're envisioning are going to be generated by students either getting partial or full credit for their classes for generating material that's apropos of their classes and apropos of the garden. Actually, one of the interesting things that I had that we had discussed and we had thought of is we have a whole bunch of clubs across campus. Like, for instance, the latest one that I was thinking of was the dance club. And if we can schedule an event featuring the dance club where they can create dances that are tributes to garden or butterflies or meditation or anything that they feel is apropos, it would get the students involved in an educational way so they can learn how they can learn their course materials by putting events together in the garden. And we have a culinary arts club and hospitality club that can help to set those things up. And environmental students and biology students and on can interact with the garden, providing either materials for the database or putting events on at the garden. We foresee having lots of events either run by people at the college or by people in the community and for the college and for the community. So it's going to be a fairly universal thing. And after we've set the database up, people who visit will use the QR codes throughout the garden to scan and learn about, you know, whatever they want. I guess anything from meditation to butterfly morphology, the plants that were chosen, why they were chosen, and on and on and on. So it's going to be very student-based, setting the whole thing up. The club that's putting it together is run solely by students. Debbie and I are there mostly as facilitators. So if they have questions or they need some direction or organization, we chime in. But you know, generally, people who are running the club right now don't need us. They're absolutely phenomenal. They're getting the whole thing put together and sort of pushing us to the sideline, and we just get to take the bows and promote it as much as we can.
Thanks, Tom,
Debbie,
for that.
what am I leaving out?
No, it's good. Thank you.
Where is the garden? That's my question.
It's going to be outside the Student Life Center on the lower level on the patio side.
Okay. If you've never been to Brookdale, it is absolutely a beautiful campus. It's one of the prettiest places I've ever worked. And we have a lot of areas that are really gorgeous, and that'll be a perfect place for it. That's great. All right.
I don't know if I
Go
have
ahead.
a question or
Yeah,
comment.
sure.
I don't know if you want to get the students involved in some of the problems of planting the wrong kinds of milkweed. But anyway, there are a lot of videos on that. And one is that the person who did it is a scientist, and he shows how to use a microscope to look at the wings to see if the butterflies are healthy. I don't know how, you know, involved you want students to get, but I liked it.
And what is it called?
Oh, I don't know what it's called, but I can find it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Debbie,
Yep.
can you put your email address in the chat in case she needs it?
Oh, that's a
Your
good idea.
Brookdale email. Or Tom or somebody.
The other thing is Duke Farms used to run a summer, 2-week or 1-week program for teachers. I never went to it, but it was all about raising monarchs.
Oh, wow.
So they might be able to, you know, call Duke Farms.
Awesome. Thank you.
I have tons of monarch stuff. Some of which we're dying to give away because I'm downsizing. I've had a number of falls and I'm moving into, one of those facilities where you go in it independent and et cetera. So if you decide you want any books, they're mostly children's books, but not all.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions either about the Innovation Network or, oh, great. About TIN or anything that Brookdale's doing right now while I'm here?
Are we allowed as outsiders and old people, at least in my case, to do anything at Brookdale?
There are
At one
programs.
point there were, when I was younger, there were programs. I don't know if they have them now.
I believe they're still having programming. I can check where that would be on the website, but if you, my email address is in the chat. If you would like to, I can get you some further information on that.
Okay, thank you. Right now,
welcome.
I can't do anything because I'm actually in the hospital. But
Oh,
I'm
my
tired of
goodness.
sitting around doing nothing. So I
Well,
signed up for all
joining
these
us.
workshops.
Well, everything is on Zoom because we're still in a COVID protocol, for the college, but
Yes,
we're
yes.
hoping to open up more things in the fall as
Oh,
people
great.
get vaccinated. So,
Okay, great.
This
Our-
is Catherine Edward. I'll just quickly say congratulations on advancing the garden. And tin is really a wonderful activity. I will mention that we have a club for seniors, and it meets every other week, I believe. It's called SAGE. So maybe, Judy, you want to look up SAGE, SAGE.
oh yes, I forgot
And then
about
pass
that.
that information on, because I went once to sit in and they send me the email. Obviously I can't go as a current administrator in the but it is for it's faculty that are helping and preparing programs for seniors, and when they do come on campus, I think it's over the lunch hour. Right now it's
Right.
over Zoom.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, that's
thank you.
great. I forgot about that program. Thank you so much, Catherine, for that. Let's see. Anybody else?
Question. In terms of clubs, are community members allowed to join clubs or only students?
Only students.
Yes, we all will be glad to get back to a somewhat face-to-face. Laura, do you have anything that you want to talk about with Monmouth County while we're all a captive audience here?
Guess what, I would encourage people to sign up for our newsletter, which comes out twice a month, and we have links. You can register for the programs that we're doing. Of course, everything is virtual right now, so we're able to expand our audience to anyone who wants to join us. You don't have to be here in person to attend. So we have a big variety of programs, and we encourage everyone to get involved. So thank you.
I have to say your newsletters are so beautiful.
Oh,
They
thank you.
yes, somebody in the library brings them to the library and they leave them out on a table for us, and they just so many great programs at Monmouth County.
Oh,
really.
that's great. Thank you. That's nice to
Really
hear.
appreciate that.
Good. And we loved partnering with you. I hope we can do it again.
Oh, I know. I'm
Exciting.
very excited when Debbie writes her second novel.
That's what I'm waiting for. That was the question I wanted to ask, if Debbie continues to write.
I'm not in the middle of writing any new novels at the moment.
This COVID situation would lend itself well to some kind of healing novel like you did for the last one.
Thank you.
Yes.
Jumping back to the Monarchs, it might be nice to have the students do a Zoom presentation about all the information they learned, through the library or whatever. So that's just an idea.
That's a great idea. And I am trying to get more programming through the library. This was just a grant that we won, but I definitely want to, open up the Brookdale Library to the community. Oh, somebody's showing the Monmouth County newsletter.
Yes, it is
Thank you.
wonderful. It comes right to you. It comes in the mailbox. It's so wonderful because I always forget to look things up. I only got to the library in real life yesterday for the first time.
Oh,
But
congratulations.
it was like, but it's so wonderful. It comes, in your mailbox every month, early, in fact. So it's like, I have all these things marked off and sign up for them right away. It's wonderful.
That's
I know.
great.
I've
Thank you.
always wanted to go to someone. They're so interesting. The other thing I wanted to say is when we open up, we can't do this right now, but when we open up, Monmouth County residents can get a community card at Brookdale's library, and you're able to check out a certain number of books from our library that we have there. So that's not happening right now, but once we open up more, you'll be able to do that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And I assume we have lots of ebooks as well.
Yes, we do have the electronic books are password protected for Brookdale students, unfortunately, because they're a subscription based thing. But you could come in and use our databases while you're in the library. The library is quite nice place to be, actually, and I hope to get back there someday. So once we open up more, people will be able to utilize that space too. So
Great. And if
Could you
you have,
just remind me of where the Monarch Butterfly Garden is going to be? You said it, but I missed it. Is it going to be near the Art Center?
It's going to be in the Student Life Center right outside on the lower level.
Okay.
If you've ever been to the campus, there's a very famous filly called Regret. She won the Kentucky Derby, and the garden will be just below where she stands in the back. I think that's great. She's a statue, obviously.
If anybody hasn't gone to art shows in the museum, it's fabulous. Fabulous.
yeah, it's just a
Was
great place.
fabulous before
Yeah.
COVID.
Great place. Does Kelsey, would you like to talk a little more about the GCP events since I have a few minutes?
Sure. Well, I put them in the chat, and as I mentioned earlier, they are open to the community. We do have environmental studies professor Harry Compton coming on he's here. He's here at Brookdale. He'll be on Zoom at March 30th. And then we have Chris Temple, who's an acclaimed director, is actually going to do a Q&A with Brookdale students and, again, community members. We have a lot of other events coming up, and we do have them listed on the website as well. So if you were to go to Brookdale's website and look for those things, we love it when community members come and get involved, and all of this is free of charge, so it's a great resource. And I just want to say thank you to Judy and to Debbie for all their work, and just Brookdale, for those of you who are not too familiar with Brookdale, it really is a special place because of people like this that care about things. So I think that the work that everybody's doing, it's really inspiring, and it sustains me personally through these difficult times, which we're all going through in our own different ways. So
Yes.
Just wanted to say thank you for providing this forum, and Debbie for writing and raising awareness and bringing so many issues to people's consciousness. Because I was just thinking, as you were talking about the situation and the barrier islands, I mean, they're sea level, climate refugees. I'm thinking, on the Jersey Shore in how many years? I mean, it's just really, there's just a lot going on, but it is the things that we're doing through TIN and, all of these things that do make a difference. So I'm sorry I was long-winded, but I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Kelsey.
I appreciate that.
Judy, there's just one thing that we didn't mention. If anybody buys the novel on Amazon.
Oh, yes. Yes, thank you.
All of the money gets split between the People's Pantry in Toms River and Helping Hands at Brookdale. Any of the proceeds I receive go to one of those two charities.
That is so awesome. That is really awesome. And there is a mention of food pantries in the book too. And I thought that was really a great thing. So I just appreciate you so much, Debbie, for coming and taking the time to talk about your book. And I just think it's just such a great book. And it reminded me of my teenagers when they were teenagers and the things that they said and did. And I'm glad I didn't know some of the things that they did. So I'm really, so it just was kind of cathartic in that way to remind myself, that they went through those teenage years and survived it. So I was really glad about that. But it is such a great book on so many levels. And I want to go to Toms River now. I have never been. So now I want to go to Toms River. And I really appreciate everyone for coming, and for Monmouth County for co-sponsoring with me. The Laura from the marketing department here, who they all do just a beautiful job with all of the posters and all of the marketing for these events. And I love working with them as well. You just ask them to do something and they just do it. I'm not a graphic designer. So, here's a book, go do something with that book, so it's really a good service that we have here at Brookdale for that. And I wanted to give them a shout out as well. Okay, well,
Judith, one last thought from the library. I just want to mention, we have, Debbie was nice enough to donate 2 copies of the book, and they are in our collection. People can check them out. They are physical copies. So if anybody has a library card here with Monmouth County, the book is accessible that way too. So Debbie, thank you for making that available to our patrons.
Thank you.
and this is Brookdale's copy, so I will return it to Brookdale post haste. So maybe Debbie, I'm going to buy another copy just so the money goes to the, food pantry. I'll buy a couple more copies for the library, for Brookdale's library too.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
yep.
Great.
All right,
Well, thank
guys. Thank you so much for
Wonderful.
being here, and always check out the Brookdale website. Right on the Brookdale website are all of our events across like a scrolling thing, so you can see everything that's available. And you just click on the picture, and that's how you register for the events. So go to Monmouth stuff, go to our stuff. Have a great day. Go outside and enjoy the weather.
Yes.
Okay.
Go enjoy
Thank
the
you.
weather.
It was
Thank you.
Thank you
wonderful.
so much. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you
Bye-bye.
so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.